mention of hobbyists. Yeah, thanks for the super chat. But yeah, rest in peace, Val Kilmer and Gene Hackman. Yeah, I didn't talk about Gene Hackman. Of course, that's tragic. Very sad. And rest in peace, Gene Hackman. Really weird way they, found he and his wife too, and we're kind of wondering, was some sort of something like Alzheimer's or dementia at play? Who knows? That was sad. So, and he deserves to be celebrated. Certainly as the first on-screen Lex Luthor, and he was great in those movies. Wonderful in those movies. He didn't necessarily define the character for me. Like, he wasn't to Lex Luthor what Christopher Reeve was to Superman, but he was still great in those movies. Really great. And yeah, and those are just, the Superman movies, to say nothing of his vast and varied career. So yeah. Val Kilmer, though, I actually meant this week to record a little tribute to Val. Val Kilmer is another one of those actors for me, kind of like Johnny Depp, who just defined my childhood with so many awesome roles, awesome roles that I follow, that I enjoy, that I watch. Think about Val Kilmer of as a middle school or even elementary school, like fifth grade. I remember snickering with my friends to Real Genius or Top Secret, the spy movie he did. Those were funny. Of course, he's Mad Mardigan and Willow. That's freaking awesome. Mad Mardigan. I was never really a Top Gun guy, but of course he's known for that. But I loved him in Batman. I thought he was a great Batman. If you had to have a replacement, Michael Keaton definitely wasn't coming back. I thought Val Kilmer was fine in the role. I thought he did quite well. And Jim Morrison of The Doors, and to actually sing, those roles, that was amazing. And of course, perhaps most iconically is Doc Holliday in the wonderful epic Tombstone. So yeah, he's just that's he deserves to be celebrated, absolutely. And actors like him are rare. Maybe they don't get in the. I do put him in the same book as like a Johnny Depp. I think they deserve a lot more credit for their acting and for the craft than they typically get. But they're actors who maybe aren't necessarily celebrated as the pinnacle of the acting craft, or the best actors ever. But they end up doing roles that just touch people, that people love, that are fun, that really entertain and really stick with people. So I love that. I throw Michael Keaton into that lot as well. Yeah, that was a bummer. But he'd been dealing with his disease for a while. I'm glad he's no longer in pain, obviously, but that was sad to hear. Interesting. You say to me, Val is arguably the best live action Batman, the most like Kevin Conroy. I never thought about that. I need to watch that movie again and really be able to, because it's been a while since I've seen it. But I never hated Batman Forever. I thought Batman Forever was a fine movie. Of course, it was the first initial step away from that Tim Burton feel, and it was the first initial step away from Keaton's Batman and everything. So of course there was a little bit of like, I remember just back in the day going to see it, but it was not in any way like, this is just crap, this is garbage. It wasn't Batman and Robin, right? That's what I'm trying to say. There were a lot of good things about it. And, there's a whole story about the drama behind the movie and whatnot too. Things that Schumacher wasn't allowed to do. And there's the elusive director's cut that maybe is out there, maybe isn't, and who knows. But it was still fun. It was still a fun Batman movie. Yeah, it started to swerve a little bit more towards the silly, childish stuff for, being under Schumacher's direction. But I really think it was the studio more. I don't like it when people crap on Schumacher for that. Because, yeah, he helmed it, and he deserves. I'm not saying he's blameless by any means, but it was the studio that pushed for that. Schumacher gave us Lost Boys, for crying out loud. I think if he'd been allowed or allowed to have his kind of own reign over a Batman movie, I think it could have been great. It was just all those, it was Oprah Winfrey and all those simpy, gimpy, dumbass little parents who complained about Batman Returns is so dark, it scared our kids. You can go, I remember the Oprah Winfrey show, and interviewing children like, it really scared me. Stupid kids. Anyway.